The Red Ribbon Army's General Blue stood triumphantly over the paralyzed Goku, his muscular frame glistening under the Penguin Village sun. His sculpted arms flexed as he hoisted a freshly sliced tree trunk, its sharp edge poised for the kill. A smug grin stretched across his chiseled face. This was the end for the boy. But just as he prepared to drive the jagged wood into Goku's chest, a voice called out. "Aral! Save Goku!" Dr. Sunbei Norimaki shouted. A blur of purple and white streaked toward Blue. Before he could react, a tremendous force struck his back. Wham! Aral Norimaki's kick sent Blue hurtling forward, his body flipping through the air like a ragdoll. He barely had time to register what happened before. Bam! 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 A flurry of headbutts followed, each one hammering into him with the force of a cannonball. The series of strikes launched him skyward. Higher and higher Blue went, the vast sky swallowing him whole. His screams faded into the wind. "Bye-bye, meanie." Aral giggled, waving cheerfully as Goku gasped for air. Crash! Blue landed in a place resembling ancient Egypt, surrounded by pyramids and sand dunes. Dazed and groaning in pain, he pulled himself up. His chest rose and fell with each ragged breath, his muscles aching from the brutal impact. But one thing was clear, his mission had failed. Stumbling to his feet, he spotted an old, rusted telephone pole standing alone in the desert. Limping toward it, he grabbed the receiver and dialed the Red Ribbon Army's frequency. Static buzzed before a stern voice crackled through. "General Blue, report." "Mission failed," Blue admitted, clenching his jaw. The Dragon Ball was not retrieved. Silence. Then. "Return to headquarters immediately," the voice commanded. "Any further delay, and you will be considered a traitor." A cold sweat formed on Blue's brow. He knew what that meant. The Red Ribbon Army did not tolerate failure. If he didn't return soon, he'd be hunted down. Gritting his teeth, he resolved to get back at all costs. He found a small plane resting in the sand, likely abandoned by treasure hunters. He climbed aboard, flicked the switches, and nothing. The engine sputtered and died. Cursing under his breath, he abandoned the plane and stumbled onto a nearby road. Moments later, an old car approached. Blue stepped in front of it, yanked the driver out, and hijacked the vehicle. For a brief moment, it seemed like he was back on track until the car suddenly lost power and came to a dead stop. Furious, he pounded the dashboard. "What is going on?" he roared. Unbeknownst to him, deep within the fabric of time, a rogue Kai named Zamasu messed with a time ring in the future. Ripples coursed through space and time, subtly altering history. Blue's return to headquarters had been delayed, his every attempt to move forward thwarted. Days passed. Blue stole another vehicle. It too broke down. He tried hitchhiking, but storms rolled in, forcing him to take shelter. Even a simple bicycle he found on the roadside inexplicably lost its chain. Frustration boiled within him. It had been nearly a week when he finally spotted the Red Ribbon Army headquarters in the distance. Relief flooded through his exhausted body. He was almost there. But fate had other plans. The sun hung high in the sky as General Blue trudged toward the Red Ribbon Army headquarters, his once pristine physique now covered in a mixture of sand, sweat, and engine soot. A week of hardship had worn on him, his body ached, his throat was parched, and frustration gnawed at his mind. But all of that faded when he finally laid eyes on the headquarters. His blood ran cold. The Red Ribbon Army was no more. Empty buildings stretched before him, many of them riddled with bullet holes, scorch marks, and massive craters. Structures that once stood as monuments of power and discipline now lay in ruins. The scent of smoke and gunpowder still lingered in the air. Blue stepped cautiously into the compound, his boots crunching over broken debris. His eyes darted from side to side, searching for any signs of life. But all he found were lifeless bodies. Fallen Red Ribbon soldiers littered the ground, their uniforms stained with blood and dirt. The scene was a massacre. As Blue moved deeper into the headquarters, he came across the barely recognizable remains of Officer Black, his robotic battlesuit now a twisted wreck of scorched metal. The explosion that had claimed him left little more than a charred husk. Nearby, the lifeless form of Commander Red lay sprawled across the floor. A bullet hole gaped in the center of his forehead, his lifeless eyes frozen in shock. The once feared leader of the Red Ribbon Army had been reduced to just another casualty. A silent, grim end to his ambitions. The rest of the soldiers and scientists were nowhere to be found. They had deserted the headquarters, abandoning whatever was left of the once mighty army. The eerie silence was far removed from the bustling military hub he once knew. Blue clenched his fists. Who could have done this?" he murmured, his voice trembling. The thought of the Red Ribbon Army being wiped out so fast unsettled him. And yet, a strange feeling crept over him, relief. There would be no punishment for his failure. Blue's emotions were a tangled mess of disbelief and relief. While he was shaken by the destruction of the organization he had devoted his life to, a part of him was glad to avoid facing the punishment he had feared for his failed mission to retrieve the Dragon Balls. Commander Red's shrill reprimands and Officer Black's icy glares were memories he was secretly happy to leave behind. But as he looked around at the destruction, another realization dawned upon him: his life was now without purpose. The army had given him orders, direction, and status. Now, there was nothing. As realization dawned that the Red Ribbon Army was no more, a mixture of rage and fear coursed through him. With nowhere to turn, Blue wandered from the ruins, his thoughts in disarray. As he left the area, his ears caught the sound of distant voices. Blue's eyes narrowed. He followed the sound, moving cautiously through the wilderness until he spotted them beneath the shade of a tree. He recognized some of them immediately. That monkey boy with spiky hair, Son Goku, stood front and center, his orange GI still in pristine condition. Beside him was the bald monk he had fought before, Krillin. Bulma, the obnoxious blue-haired girl, held a device in her hands that beeped rhythmically. And the old hermit, the so-called Master Roshi, stood with a relaxed stance. But there were others, ones Blue had never encountered before. A lean teenage boy with wild, unkempt black hair, wearing a desert bandit's outfit. A small, floating cat-like creature beside him. A short, pig-like humanoid with a smug expression. And a blonde woman who seemed to be switching between a cheerful smile and a mischievous smirk. Blue listened carefully. The conversation revolved around the last Dragon Ball. For some reason, Bulma's radar wasn't detecting it. Ugh! The radar must be broken. It's not picking up the Dragon Ball. Bulma was tinkering with the device, clearly frustrated. Krillin's gaze wandered and he spotted Blue behind a tree. "Oh, look! It's him again," he exclaimed. The others turned to look. There, standing just beyond the tree line, was General Blue. His body, still coated in a mixture of sand and engine soot, was tense as he realized he'd been spotted. Blue braced himself for their reaction. But oddly enough, none of them seemed particularly intimidated by him. There was no fear in their eyes, just casual amusement, as if they no longer saw him as a threat. Bulma smirked, arms crossed. Well. If it isn't the Red Ribbon creep. Didn't you try to kill us a week ago? What's wrong, big guy? You look a little lost. Oh, wait. That's because the Red Ribbon Army is gone. Looks like you're out of a job. Blue's eyes twitched. His fists clenched. He couldn't just let that remark slide. Shut your mouth, you brat, he growled, stepping forward. His muscles tensed and with a sharp inhale, he took a step forward, ready for battle. Goku, ever energetic, sprang to his feet, assuming a fighting stance. You're the bad guy from the Red Ribbon Army. I won't let you hurt anyone. Krillin and Yamcha prepared to fight as well. If you want to fight, you've got all three of us to deal with, Yamcha warned. Blue tensed, raising his fists, but Master Roshi intervened. Now, my boy, there's no point fighting anymore. The Red Ribbon Army is gone. He stared at Blue with a knowing look. You wouldn't stand a chance, anyway. What? Blue snarled, though his bravado faltered. That's right, Bulma added, placing a hand on her hip. Goku trashed your little army like it was nothing. Seriously, you should have seen it, he wiped the floor with your so-called unstoppable force. Blue froze, the weight of her words hitting him like a punch to the gut. If it's true that the boy was now strong enough to single-handedly destroy the Red Ribbon Army, he truly had no chance of beating him. He glanced at Goku, who grinned innocently, and realized the truth. The boy's strength was leagues beyond his own, and he had Turtle Hermit and 2 other fighters on his side. Blue's ego screamed at him to fight to show them he wasn't weak, but his rational mind prevailed. He quickly assessed the situation. He was outnumbered. He was already worn out after being stranded in a desert for a week with no proper rest and meal. After realizing that fighting was not an option, Blue gritted his teeth and turned to leave, but Bulma's voice stopped him. "And where do you think you're going? I'm not done with you yet." Master Roshi's expression turned serious. "I'm sorry, son, but I'm afraid we cannot just let a dangerous Red Ribbon Army general roam freely." Blue turned, wary. "What do you want from me?" Well, General Blue," she said playfully. "Since your precious little army is gone, I've got a proposition for you." Blue scoffed. "A proposition? From you?" He sneered. "And what could a teenage brat possibly have to offer someone of my caliber?" Bulma flipped her hair. "Oh, nothing much. Just a job." Blue blinked, then let out a sharp, mocking laugh. "You? Hiring me? Ha! And what, pray tell, would I even do for you? Carry your bags? Fetch you tea?" Bulma grinned. "Close. I want you to be my personal assistant and bodyguard." That was it. Blue doubled over laughing. "Oh, that's rich. You actually think you can afford someone like me? Do you have any idea how much a man of my skill costs?" "A spoiled little girl like you." Master Roshi interjected. "You do realize who you're talking to, don't you? She is the heiress of Capsule Corporation. She can pay you more than the Red Ribbon Army ever did." Blue's laughter stopped. He stiffened, his confident smirk twitched, his brain struggling to process the words. He stared at Roshi, then at Bulma, who only smiled smugly. "W what?" Blue stammered. "Yep." Krillin chimed in. "Her dad owns the biggest tech company in the world. You know, the company that makes all those capsules the Red Ribbon Army probably used." The blood drained from Blue's face. The girl he had tried to kill a week ago was the daughter of the single most powerful businessman in the world. Capsule Corporation's wealth and influence were unmatched, far beyond even what the Red Ribbon Army could dream of achieving. Bulma watched the realization dawn on him and leaned in. "So," she said sweetly, "now that you know I can afford you, here's the deal. Either you accept my offer, or," she let her gaze shift toward Goku, Master Roshi, Krillin, and Yamcha, each one eyeing Blue carefully. A bead of sweat formed at Blue's temple. He was no fool. He knew exactly what Bulma meant. He had 2 choices, work for her, or there was no telling what they'd decide to do with him. Gritting his teeth, Blue straightened his posture and exhaled through his nose. "Fine," he muttered. "Sorry, what was that?" Bulma teased. "I said fine." Blue snapped. "I accept your ridiculous offer." Roshi nodded approvingly. "A wise choice. You have great potential. If you train under me, I could make you even stronger." General Blue, former elite soldier of the Red Ribbon Army, stood there in disbelief. A week ago, he had been one of the most feared men in the world. Now, he's working for the teenage girl he had tried to kill. With General Blue's fate now sealed as Bulma's personal assistant and bodyguard, the group turned their attention back to the Dragon radar. Bulma furrowed her brows as she stared at the device in her hands, pressing a few buttons to recalibrate it. She was shaking the Dragon Ball radar in frustration. The group stood in a small clearing nearby, with Blue quietly watching them from a short distance. "It's not detecting anything," Bulma muttered, her frustration evident. "Maybe it's broken," Yamcha suggested, leaning casually against a tree. Bulma frowned, about to respond, when a thought struck her like a bolt of lightning. Her expression darkened, and she spun around to glare at Blue, who instinctively stepped back. "What's wrong, Bulma?" Goku asked, tilting his head in confusion. "Him," she snapped, pointing an accusing finger at Blue. "Remember when this musclehead ambushed us at Kame House a week ago?" Blue winced but stayed silent. Bulma's fury bubbled over. "Remember how he used his weird telekinetic powers to animate some ropes and tie us all up? Then he stole the Dragon Balls and the original Dragon Ball radar." "Oh yeah," Goku exclaimed, a look of realization dawning on his face. "And then he left that bomb. After launch untied us, I kicked it into the sky, and it went boom. You've got some nerve, you thief!" Bulma shouted, storming up to Blue and grabbing his ear with a sharp pinch. She pulled hard, making Blue flinch and groan in discomfort. "Ow, ow. I was only following orders. I am sorry." Blue stammered, raising his hands defensively. "Sorry doesn't cut it." Bulma scolded, yanking his ear harder. "Give me back the original Dragon Ball radar right now." "Fine, fine. Here, take it." Blue quickly reached into his pocket and pulled out the original Dragon radar, presenting it to Bulma like a student caught sneaking candy into class. Bulma snatched it away, huffing as she turned it on. The group gathered around as Bulma powered it on. The screen flickered to life and then nothing. Just like her new radar, it failed to locate the last Dragon Ball. The screen remained blank. No signal. No Dragon Ball. "Ha!" Bulma exclaimed, tapping the device furiously. "This one's not working either." "Maybe it's broken too," Oolong suggested with a shrug. Bulma's temper flared again, and she pinched Blue's side, making him flinch. "Stop breaking everything, you dolt," she yelled. Blue grumbled, "Ah! Ow! Ow! I didn't break it. I just..." "Enough!" Bulma interrupted. "We're going back to Kame House so I can fix both of these radars. No more funny business or else." She mimed snapping something in half, glaring at him. Blue, now thoroughly cowed, sighed and muttered, "Understood, ma'am." He gently rubbed the sore spot on his side. The others watched in mild amusement. Seeing the once prideful general getting manhandled by a teenage girl was unexpected. But what was even stranger was how he didn't fight back. Blue could have easily pushed Bulma away, yet he simply endured it. His military training had drilled discipline into him. Obeying his superior's orders was second nature. Unfortunately for him, Bulma was now his boss, and she was not in a forgiving mood.